Welcome back to the It Girl Playbook. Today we'll be continuing our favorite series, It Girl Lessons from It Girls, where we explore the allure of some of our favorite iconic It Girls and see what it is that makes everyone so obsessed with them. By better understanding what makes them so magnetic, we can be inspired to adopt some of their most attractive qualities and values into our lives so that we can level up as well. In today's episode, we're focusing on Audrey Hepburn to explore how grace can create a lasting influence and how authenticity can be just as magnetic as a carefully crafted image. If you're unfamiliar with Audrey Hepburn, she was a British actress and one of the most iconic figures in the 1950s and 60s, with her name still recognized till this day, proving the lasting influence she holds as one of Hollywood's most beloved stars. The first lesson she highlights for us is the power of grace over force and the power of less. Unlike the overt, flashy glamour of her time, Audrey embodied an entirely different kind of allure, understated sophistication. Where others turned to extravagance to be seen, Audrey captured the world's attention through simplicity and quite literally made history doing it. For example, her Breakfast at Tiffany's little black dress by Givenchy became one of the most iconic fashion moments in history, proving that simplicity can be more powerful than excess. Whether it was in her style, the softness in her voice, the gentleness of her demeanor, or the simplicity of her presence, Audrey mastered the art of restraint. Her fashion choices were always minimal, yet impactful, never overdone, but always elegant. Her voice, always calm and soothing, commanded attention without raising it, and her movements, they were graceful yet poised, conveying strength without effort. Audrey understood that it wasn't about being loud to be heard. Whether on screen or in her personal life, she knew how to use her presence and her actions to speak volumes without saying a word. She captivated the world with her quiet confidence, showing that sometimes the most powerful presence is the one that says the least. For some, this kind of restraint can add to one's mystery and allure, as there's power in letting people wonder and creating this room for people to crave and want more. But for Audrey, she also teaches us how this type of restraint and minimalism can also be a form of grace and elegance. Audrey wasn't loud, aggressive, or attention-seeking, yet she attracted the attention of the world. This elegance in behavior highlights for us how you don't have to force your way into a room to leave an unforgettable impression. You can be soft, restrained, intentional, and still captivate an entire room, or like Audrey, the entire world. The next lesson she highlights for us is how authenticity is magnetic. Audrey didn't try to fit into the typical bombshell mold in the 1950s. Think Marilyn Monroe and Jane Mansfield. She didn't try to compete with them, imitate them, or outshine them at their own game. Instead, she leaned into her own natural elegance, her slender frame, delicate features, big doe eyes, and playful, almost childlike spirit. And that's exactly what made her unforgettable. Yes, we've talked about reinvention and creating a new version of yourself if you don't like who you are. We've seen how Norma Jean became Marilyn Monroe and how even Beyonce turns into her alter identity of Sasha Fierce whenever she steps onto the stage. Reinvention can be incredibly powerful, but Audrey also shows us that sometimes the most magnetic thing you can do is to not change at all. Audrey fully leaned into who she already was, even when it didn't match what was quote-unquote hot in the mainstream at the time. She didn't try to chase trends or mold herself into that era's definition of beauty, and that didn't make her any less impactful. In fact, it actually made her timeless. Audrey was also quite open about her difficult past, including the challenges of her wartime childhood and her personal struggles. This is far from the glamorous Hollywood image that was in at the time and often played out, but she didn't try to hide or downplay her past and her vulnerabilities. Instead, she used them to fuel her empathy and compassion, qualities that helped her connect deeply with people from all walks of life. And I think that's the real lesson here. There's incredible value in not trying to be like anyone else and changing who you are, because when you fully own what makes you different, what made you into who you are, you automatically become unforgettable, because the fact of the matter is there is no one like you and no one who experienced what you had to experience to become the version of you that you are today. And that is the whole beauty of it, and that holds so much value. And last but not least, Audrey also highlights for us the power of substance over image. Even though she was a global fashion icon, Audrey prioritized substance over surface level fame. Yes, she had impeccable style. Yes, she was a muse to some of the most legendary designers like Vinci, but what made her truly unforgettable was her inner qualities. Instead of chasing more Hollywood success or capitalizing on her fame indefinitely, Audrey chose to dedicate her later years to humanitarian work with UNICEF. She traveled to some of the most devastated places in the world, not for the cameras or for publicity, but because she genuinely cared. She lent her name to causes, gave her time, her energy, and her heart. And as a result, her legacy isn't just limited to the glamorous photographs or her iconic Hollywood roles. It's built into the lives she touched, the children she helped, and the compassion she showed. Audrey reminds us that while beauty will always turn heads, it's substance, the values you live by, the way you treat others, and the impact you make that leaves a lasting legacy. Fame, it fades, trends come and go, and beauty standards, they evolve over time. But what endures is the mark you leave by, who you are, and what you stand for. Audrey Hepburn didn't dominate with force, she captivated with grace. She didn't become iconic by imitating others, she became unforgettable by staying true to herself. And while beauty opened doors for her, it was her substance that built a legacy that still inspires people till this day. Audrey shows us that you don't need to be the loudest in the room, the flashiest on screen, the trendiest in the moment, or the most perfect in the image you create to leave an impact. She reminds us that you just need to be authentic, lead with grace, and most importantly, she reminds us that who you are will always matter more than how you appear. That's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope to see you in the next episode, and in the meantime, as always, stay hot. Bye!